for you with making some pasta, making some cheese, and showing you how to make some really simple sauces. So we'll spend a few minutes going through all of the processes, but I do have some people that are here in the Center for Food Lecture Theatre with me that will be helping. So beside me I have Ashley. Ashley is a recent graduate. She just finished a couple weeks ago after 2 years of culinary management. And I have Chef Tanya will be answering questions in the chat related to the program. And I also have Daniela, and Daniela will be able to answer some questions in the chat regarding any sort of application related questions.
Amazing. So thank you everyone for joining us today to get a taste of our culinary programs here at Durham College. We're very excited to showcase our culinary today. Here at DC we offer over 140 programs over our Oshawa and Whitby campuses, but today we're here in Whitby, the hub for all of our hospitality and horticulture science programming. Within our faculty we have a lot in horticulture, food and farming, culinary skills, culinary management, and then some in hospitality for hotel and restaurant chain management. Now Whitby is a very unique campus. We are with the field to fork mentality, where all of our food is locally grown here in our greenhouses and on our fields by all of our food and farming students. That food is then passed down to culinary, who cooks with the food, and last but not least, our hospitality students will serve the food here in our student-run Bistro 67 restaurant. So I'll pass it back over to you.
Great, thanks. So we're going to take a look. First of all, we're going to make some stuffed pasta with ricotta cheese filling. This is things that you can actually do at home quite easily, and it's Mother's Day this weekend, so you don't need any special equipment. We're going to just show you how to make some pasta and some cheese, and we are going to start with ricotta cheese. So Ashley is going to be taking a look here at this pot, and you can see, so what we have in this pot is we have little wisps of steam coming off. So if you don't have a thermometer, those wisps of steam, that means it's about 180 Fahrenheit, 82 Celsius, and it's hot enough that we can add some flavoring and acid. So we're going to add citric acid in the form of lemon, but you could also use powdered citric acid as well. So you can buy that at Shoppers Drug Mart, Bulk Barn, online you can buy it as well. But you have to be careful with the amount you're putting in, about 7.5 mils per liter. Depending on the size of your lemon, you may want to put 1.5 lemons, but there's a really good trigger that you're going to look for, and that's curds and whey. So curds are going to be the nice white fluffy solids that are floating to the top, and whey is going to be a yellowish liquid. So we're going to get there soon, and we're going to slowly stir, not aggressively, it's kind of important. We're going to slowly stir the lemon juice, and we put the zest in just for some extra flavor, into the milk. And we'll start to see little chunks appear on the spoon, and we know it's starting to work. Let that rest for a minute or so, and light stir. These lemons are pretty small. We're going to add another half lemon. Wait 3 minutes. If it's not clear, then we're going to add the rest of the second lemon. Now we could do this for dessert and add some sugar to it, a little tiny bit of salt and some sugar. But we're going to be using this to fill our pasta. So we're going to add some garlic. So we've sliced some garlic, chopped it up, cooked it lightly in a little bit of olive oil, and some salt and pepper. And we've got some basil, and as Daniela mentioned, field to fork. We went out to the field today because the garlic chives are up. They're nice, about 6 inches long. These are a nice flat chive, but they have a really nice mild garlic flavor in them. So we're going to put some garlic chives into the pasta. This garlic came out of the ground in like late August here at the Center for Food. It's been wintered, and we're just using up the last of the supply while the new garlic is now coming out and just starting to grow and get its scapes on. So we're going to be pretty excited about that. So this cheese filling is, we can see that Ashley's going to hold up the spoon. You can see the chunks on the spoon, and it's starting to get a little bit more white, not just stainless steel, but we're still pretty milky, so she's going to add in the other half lemon. You want something a little different, put lime juice in. You probably need 2.5 or 3 limes, and if they just don't have quite enough acid, we'll enhance that with a tiny bit of citric acid. It's just a white crystalline powder. If you like those Sour Patch Kids and things like that, they just put citric acid and sugar on top of like a little jelly. That's what you're eating, but it's the same idea going into here. So this is getting nice and thick and light now. So we're gonna let that sit. As soon as you see that separating, we shut the power off and just let it rest for 5 minutes. We put it then in a sieve. Coffee filter, cheesecloth would be good, but you can just use a sieve and separate the solid curds from the liquid whey. So we're gonna take that off of the very hot spot on the induction burner. So once that's done, and Ashley will grab the filling, we're gonna put this into a piping bag, but if you don't have a piping bag, a couple of spoons will work. And we'll just have this nice soft, pliable cheese that has basil, garlic, lemon zest, salt and pepper. Make sure you taste it, and taste it while it's warm. So when we're going to eat something, if it's designed to be served hot, you should taste it hot. So the amount of salt will be less when it's cold. So if I taste this, it might taste kind of bland, but when I heat it up, it's going to be just the perfect amount of seasoning. If I adjust the seasoning when it's cold, it'll be super salty when I go to serve it. So we're going to have that all ready to go. We're going to be piping this into our pastas in a little while. Now, it's weird around here. I'm the cheese guy. That's not the weird part, but the weird part is I've spent a lot of time making cheese. We do a lot of different cheeses here at Center for Food in the culinary program. I'm lactose intolerant, so you might think that's a little bit strange, but we can make this cheese out of lactose-free milk. So if you're lactose intolerant, you can certainly make that, no problem. But most of the other cheeses we make, we age, and the lactose turns to galactose, and lactose intolerant people like me can eat it. They have a 2 or 3 year shelf life. This one has a 2 or 3 day shelf life because it's a fresh cheese. So we have to be pretty cautious and in the shelf life and being aware we're going to make it today. We have to eat it by Saturday. So this has been sitting long enough, and we'll be able to see just inside that we have a bit of yellowish liquid on top, and then we have all the curds in the bottom, and you'll see that as Ashley's carefully scooping it out. So these are super delicate. These curds, they're super delicate, and if we were just to take and dump it through the sieve, the heaviness of the liquid whey will punch out all of the moisture that's in the curds, and we'll end up with something sort of the consistency or texture of sawdust, and we don't want that. The other way to get the sawdust texture is stirring it too aggressively, and the third way is having too much heat. So a thermometer is a great idea. Again, 82°C, 180 Fahrenheit. But we're just going to scoop this out. We're going to get out of 1 liter, about 150 grams of cheese. Now we're going to get as much as we can out of here with a spoon, and then when we have very little curds left in here, we can then pour it through, and that's not going to affect the mass of curds that we have.
And when you're pouring it into the sieve, you just want to pour it off to the side so you're not pouring it directly on top of the curds that are in there.
Now the whey, what can we use the whey for? So if you like making bread, the whey would be a good substitute. Instead of water, you can put the whey in. You can use it to make a soup. There is a bit of acidity in, so maybe something like a clam chowder or some sort of soup that needs a bit of acid to it. A lot of times, unfortunately, the whey does get dumped. It takes a lot of energy to dehydrate the whey to get into to whey powder. But even the whey, using it for a brine if it's cold, you can marinate your chicken breast in the whey, and that will help keep them moister and more tender when you cook them. So we can see that we're getting a little bit of yield here. Actually, we'll lift up the screen so you can see that. So we're getting a little bit of liquid in there now, and in the bowl, and a lot of solids here as well. While this is still hot, that's when we want to add the other ingredients. So I'm going to actually be adding now the basil and the garlic chives and the chopped garlic. I want to add this in now, not that it cooks, like right in here at 180 degrees, it's going to cook a lot. I just want to get some of this herb flavor out of the herb and into the cheese as it's finishing off. I also want to put in a little bit of pepper and salt, so I like to put in cracked black pepper, not ground, so we get a little bite every now and then. I know Chef Tanya appreciates a good chunk of black pepper every now and then. She has a bite. If you don't, then grind it up. But make this to your own liking of the flavor. Just season it to your taste. We're also going to take the garlic that's been sweat off without coloring, so super low heat, and just to start getting some aroma. I can see people walking out the hallway of the lecture theater here at the Center for Food, and their noses are kind of like, what's going on in there? Because they can smell the garlic out in the hallway. So we've got this, it's just going to get mixed up. We can actually set this mass aside into a bowl and then pour off the rest. So this 1 liter should easily make enough tortellinis to serve about 4 to 6 people. So we're going to pour this really, really gently. And I'm just moving around the sieve so it's not pouring all over itself. As it sits, you're going to see a little bit more whey coming out of the curds. Just drain some of that off, but don't take it all off. We'll stir it all up later and then it'll be nice and creamy. If you want some chopped onion in there as well, you can really mix that too so it's quite soft and get something that's sort of like boursin. But this is a very fresh cheese, super easy to make, and you can see how yellow the liquid is in here. We've got the yellow whey and the nice white curds. If you like roasted red pepper, put some roasted red pepper in. Chili peppers, anything that really flavoring that you and your family like. It's a great, easy recipe. And we will, like I say, we will be able to answer some questions, so you can type questions in about applying to Durham College, about other programs we have here. Daniela will answer those, and about the culinary program, Chef Tanya will answer those. And if you have questions just about what we're doing here and you want to stop, you can type them into the chat. Chef Tanya will get my attention, and then I'll answer the questions for you live. But we'll also, at the last 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes, just around 2 o'clock, have a general question and answer period to be able to answer anything that you may want to know about the program or the college here. Okay? So we have this beautiful filling. We're going to make sure it tastes good, certainly looks and smells good. So we'll give it a little taste, adjust our seasoning as we need to. Need some salt. So we're going to put a little bit more salt in. And because it's going into pasta that doesn't have salt in the dough, but it is cooked in salted water, we can actually have this just a bit saltier than we might think it should be. It's good, just a bit more. And for some pepper. So mixing that up, you can see how much we have is about 150, maybe even 200 ml. And that's because Ashley's made this a couple of times already, so she knows what to look for. But your temperature will give you a smaller yield. So into the fridge, then into a piping bag, then into pasta. The next thing that we'll be working on, we'll be making pasta, and I am going to have Ashley make the pasta, but I want to talk about the flour that we're looking at. So we have 2 different types of flour. We're using flour made from Durham wheat. It's not like Durham College wheat, but it's like different spelling. But Durham wheat is a very high protein flour. We grow a lot of Durham wheat in Canada for the world. I recently toured Italy to a small artisan pasta factory, and all of the wheat that they use for their pasta is grown in Canada. So we grow this really high protein flour. We're about 13-14% on the protein content, and we have semolina, which is like semi-ground, and it's kind of coarse, almost like cornmeal, and that means it makes good pasta. I mean, it's good for dusting, even dusting pizza. And then we also have semola, so it's semolina, but they grind it a little bit finer. These are both great options. If you go to Bulk Barn, for example, you're going to find semolina. if you go online or go to an Italian grocery store, you'll find semola. And that's what you want. It's a little bit finer. This will make a nice firm pasta that doesn't puff up. If you were to use bread flour or all-purpose flour, your pasta dough would get very puffy when you cook it. And it's really more like a dumpling than it is like eating good quality pasta. You'll also find when you're doing this that it's going to taste lighter when you're making it fresh as opposed to some dry pasta that you're re-cooking, and it's going to cook a whole lot faster. So we're going to use, Ashley's going to use the semola, and I'll let her go through the process getting all ready with her things. I'll be her assistant today.
So for the pasta dough today, we're going to be making it with egg. We've got some other examples of what liquids you can use though for making pasta dough. So egg is one that you see really often online, but you can just use water, you can use a pureed vegetable, or if you want a veggie flavor, you could use a dried or powdered vegetable and add water to it as well.
So you'll need about 80 grams of semola or semolina. They both work, it just semolina needs to rest a little bit longer than the semola dough.
So I'm just adding in the egg.
Work on top. Yeah, that's fine. And there's an example of the beet powder that you can use. It's just a dehydrated beet. You could use pureed beets as well if you like that. It's going to give us a nice deep red color. You can use fresh or frozen spinach or arugula, kale, anything like that. But if you are pureeing, you want a little extra water in it. We'll show you that in a minute.
So the ratio that we said about for making pasta, you still have to pay attention to what the dough actually turns out like. So you can see here, this dough is just barely a dough. It's very, very, very wet. So I'm going to add some more flour.
And this ratio that we talked about, 80 grams to 1 egg, the differences are, is it humid out? Does your flour have more moisture in it where it's being stored? Is it a large egg, an extra large egg, a small egg? You can always add more flour, but it's really hard to add more liquid. So what consistency, Ashley, do we look for in the final?
So we're looking for a consistency that's kind of like plasticine. We want it to be not sticky, but a little bit tacky to the touch.
And once this is done, we're going to take it and wrap it up in plastic wrap, leave it at room temperature for 20 minutes to half an hour, and just let that rest because the flour granules need to absorb all of the liquid, whether it was water, beet puree, spinach puree, egg, needs to absorb that and get to its final stickiness, and then you need to make the adjustments before rolling it out. If you're using semolina flour as opposed to semola, so the coarser ground, you probably need a half an hour to 40 minutes resting time. And we have some that are already done, but Ashley's going to go through the process of what's it like to take these 3 different doughs and mix them together. So kneading it, it's important that you get that all worked in, and if it's too hard for you on a bowl, again a bowl, work on the table, and then you're not kind of forcing that action and hurting your wrist or your elbow or anything like that. The bowl makes a much faster cleanup though. So here's some spinach that we had pureed. So we took some frozen spinach, and it wasn't going to puree all that well just by itself. So I added a fair bit of water, and you can see in here there's about 100 mils of water that I had for about 50 mils of spinach. I pureed it, then I just strained it. I used the spinach to make the dough, but I don't want it super wet because if I use a lot of just this liquid, it won't be very green. And my finishing dough here, I'll just unwrap while Ashley's working away there. My finished dough is a nice green color, and that will really show up brightly when it's cooked.
Could you substitute the egg for the spinach water?
Pardon me?
Could you substitute the egg for the spinach water?
Yes, we can use, instead of an egg, that's about 50 milliliters of water, we would use 50 milliliters of spinach puree, or 50 milliliters of pureed beet or pureed carrot? Great question, thank you for that. Just the spinach water isn't going to be a really bright green color. You'll get some flavor. So I would puree the spinach and use something thick like this. See, it kind of sticks to the spoon as opposed to something thinner, because that will be a super pale green and you won't even taste it. So add the extra water just to get enough to puree it in a blender or an immersion blender, or hand chop it. You can just hand chop it with a knife if you don't have a blender to beat it up at all. The only difference with blending it first is you do have to add water, yes, and it'll be a more consistent green. If you don't have a blender, you don't add the water, you're chopping by hand, it'll be speckled green. It'll still be good, it'll just look a little bit different. Thanks for that question.
Then this is the dough. It's all kneaded. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but it's feeling nice and tacky, and I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap that in plastic wrap and let it sit for half an hour just so that the flour absorbs all of the liquid.
So this is going to be one of the most important steps you're doing while you're making pasta, is to keep the dough wrapped when you're not using it, as it does dry out relatively quickly. So the next thing we're going to do is take a look at some dough. Now that Ashley's got that done. And we need always a little extra flour. We call that dusting flour. So we need to dust the table so the dough doesn't stick to it. We need to dust the pasta machine so the dough doesn't stick to it. And we need to dust the pasta when it's done so they don't stick to each other. So we have a little bit ready to go. And we have a few different types of pasta. I'm going to show you one that I started earlier. And then Ashley is going to do a variation of that. So this one that we're doing now, Ashley just did egg, but this one, the white is only water. The red is beet powder and water, and the green is spinach. And what we end up with is a stripe. So there's camera in mine there. Okay, so we have red, white, and green, and we stack it up like a little sandwich. So we're going to take a look. Ashley's going to do thinner stripes, and we're going to show you how to roll them through the machine and what you can do. But you can also do this, like I say, if you want to try it at home and you don't have a pasta machine, you can do it with a rolling pin. We'll show you about that in a minute.
Okay, so an important step when you're doing this is to make sure all of your doughs are the same level of moisture. Make sure they're all about the same. So these doughs are pretty good here.
Yeah, it needs a little bit of flour. I want to show you one that's a little bit softer, because if it's too soft, what do you think will happen to it? I don't know if you like egg salad sandwich or tuna salad or salmon salad sandwich, but if this was your bread and this was this other one, what's going to happen when you bite into it, right? If it's one of those chicken salad or egg salad sandwiches, it's going to squish out. The same thing when we're stacking the pasta. So if we don't have enough, we don't have the same consistency, it's going to squirt out and it's going to maybe stick going through the machine. So we just have to add a small amount of flour to the one.
So we're just going to do that. We're going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on the table and then just continue to knead it like we were before. And this just needed a tiny little bit to get to the same level.
And because this has already rested for its 20 minutes, we don't need to rest it again when we're adding that adjustment flour. Okay, so it's just a little bit extra. That's all we need. But like I said before, it's really, really hard to add more liquid, add more water or juice.
When you're making pasta before you rest it, I find if you think the dough is a little bit wet, or if you let it rest and then adjust it, you're gonna get a better consistency, because you've let it rest, you've kind of seen where it's at, and then you can adjust it.
So having a pastry brush and not having it too wet is going to help with what's called the lamination process. So sticking these all together.
Am I rolling them with the rolling pin?
Yeah, roll them with the rolling pin. We're going to get them to about 3-4 millimeters thick. And we're going to roll them out pretty much the same size. All of them kind of stretch them the same size. Try and get them to a bit of a rectangle. And sometimes when we roll this, because there's gluten in it, we roll it, it shrinks back. We roll it out again, it shrinks back. We may need to take a look at just letting it rest for a couple minutes and then get on and roll our next one. If we let these sit for too long and exposed to the air, they will get a little crust on them. If they get a little bit of a crust on them, all you need to do is take off the majority of extra water on your pastry brush and then give them a little bit of a brush, let it sit for a minute. But this is a great fun thing to do. There's lots of different, you can get super creative. There's some awesome videos online and different types of pasta that are being made. Some super good creativity. We're going to show you an alternate way of doing stripes on a pasta. So Ashley's going to do the stacked one, but we're going to save just a little bit of this green for something else. It's called applique, and we're just going to take and run it through our spaghetti cutter and then lay stripes on in a sort of a squiggly pattern and then roll them through, and it's just going to give us an abstract look to the outside of the pasta. If you're creative, maybe there's a cake decorator and you're like Chef Tanya's our pastry chef here, and if you have that other creative side of you that really wants to do something and you've got little cutters, you can cut little flowers out and stick them on the outside, make little leaves and stems out of the green. And there's a lot of different things that you can do, and you can have a lot of fun with it. But we do spend some time on making pasta because this is something that a lot of restaurants can make a lot of money on, and when you make it yourself, it's going to be different than the place down the road, and you can charge more money. People know that it's fresh, handmade, in-house, and it's good. They're going to be willing to pay for it and really come back and eat it because you're going to have a variety that nobody else has. So now Ashley's getting to a point that all of these are getting to the right thickness, and then we'll just take and trim them all up. And we'll use her egg dough to make the ones with the kind of crazy green stripes on them as well. And we can take a look at the zero waste idea with this. Any trimmings that we have, we can mash them all together and roll them out and get a really cool tie-dye or marble look to it. So we don't have to worry about throwing anything out of the way. I can't remember the name of it, maybe Chef T does, but there's a name that Italians have, and it's for poorly cut pasta sheets. So when you trim it off and you make these perfect spaghetti or perfect ravioli, and then you have all the offcuts, somebody cooks all of that up and they call it something. And it's really popular in Rome, and they charge like $40 for it, and it's all it was is scraps. So you can say you're doing something super, super high-end fancy, and it's only just scraps of pasta. But we're at a point now that we're just about ready to stack all of these, and Ashley's going to tell you the tricks and tips to make sure that this stays together.
Yes, so when you are sticking your pasta dough together, you're going to want to use that just damp pastry brush, damp with water, and you're going to brush the whole thing edge to edge. That the dusting flour that's on there is going to absorb that water, and it's going to kind of form a glue between the layers of pasta. So you want to stick that down really well, and then do the same for the third layer.
But not on top of the third layer, because your rolling pin will stick to it. I'll give you this board.
Thank you.
So now we've got these nice thin layers, and this can be cut like in 4 even pieces. We'll line up all the cut edges and stack them again, and we'll have 12 layers of really cool striped pasta.
And since we're stacking again, we're going to brush with water again. So those are our nice layers.
This just wants to be wrapped tightly, just to help that glue that Ashley talked about, help that, and we can flatten it a little bit more if we like. Set that aside, and we'll be able to start rolling out. This is the dough that Ashley made a few minutes ago, and it's already like super soft and pliable, so it can use a bit more semolina in a few minutes. But we will take a minute now and roll and cut some shapes. So we've got this one that I did earlier. We need a very important bit of dusting flour on our table. And we want to make this longer, not wider. So we want to make it this way with the stripes, not against the stripes. So we're going to roll this out just a little bit more. And if it happens to come apart, you can carefully push it back together. We just need to roll this out so it can get through the machine. It needs to be about 3 or 4 millimeters thick. And don't worry that it has a little bit of dusting flour on. That will be taken care of in the machine. So we start to get our stripes.
Do you need a pasta machine?
You don't need a pasta machine. You can do this totally with a rolling pin. So the only thing is there's gluten in it. It's going to fight back a little bit. So it's going to want to shrink. Let it rest. Cover it with a piece of plastic. Walk away for 5 minutes. Get another piece rolled out. And then come back and re-roll this one. And it'll roll out nice and easily. But you really should, when it's not moving very much anymore, you have to let it rest. And you really want to let it rest when it's wrapped in plastic wrap. And if, I'm going to pull this apart here so you can see. I'm just going to pull this apart. If that happens, all we need to do is kind of overlap it a little bit and stick it back together, or put a small amount of water on that and overlap that and stick it back together, and you haven't wasted anything. And make sure, because it's wet, put a little bit of dusting flour on, and we can roll it out in our machine. Always start at the widest and go 1 or 2 steps at a time to the narrowest. And don't go crazy fast. And most machines, you stop at the second last thickness, because if you go to the final thickness, it'll be too thin. It might tear when you're going to stuff them. But if you go to the second last thickness, do that twice, because we've just rolled it out. Now it's starting to shrink again, and then we'll want it to relax for a second, then put it back in, and we're going to get a nice, decent length out of that. That's the same thickness again. I dust through just so it's not going to stick to the cutting board, and then we'll be able to cut this and make some shapes and start shaping.
Do you want me to bring the cutting board here?
Sure. Well, yes, please. So Ashley's going to make a few different shapes. I'll just show you. We want to fold it in approximately in half and figure out where we're going to cut and get a nice straight line. And then lay that on top and cut a nice parallel line. You can use a ruler. It would really help a lot for some people. We can save all of these scraps for the poorly cut pasta thing and cook that up, or it's great little snacks. And now we want to cut them into good squares. So if I cut this like that, I can lay a piece beside and see the length I need to be. I can get good little squares and then fill them up. So I'll cut squares for Ashley. one of the next things we need to do is make sure they're going to stick together again, so we go back to adding more water. I'm going to roll out some more dough, and Ashley's going to walk you through how to make a variety of shapes. We're going to make some stuffed, and we're going to make just some shaped. Shaped ones obviously have no filling, but they're still kind of fun to make. So we've got a few different shapes in mind that we want to walk you through. And we'll show you all of them afterwards, but she's just going to start with a few. And it's really important to remember, get as much water off of that pastry brush as possible, because it's going to make these really soggy. The other thing that's important to remember is put a little bit of semolina flour down on your tray so the pasta doesn't stick to it. Okay, it's all on you while I roll out.
All right, so I'm gonna be starting with farfalle, which is the bow tie shaped pasta. You can make this pasta with squares like we're starting here, or you can make it with a round cutter. I personally, when I'm making pasta at home, like using the round cutter because it's just straightforward. I don't have to worry about measuring anything, although Chef Dave has showed off with his not measuring anything. So to make the bow tie pasta, you're gonna make a W shape. So you're gonna wet the middle a little bit, and you fold it into a V, and then down. So I guess a W or an M, and then you pinch the middle together. And you want to make sure both sides of the dough are a little bit wet in the middle so that it holds together. And that is your farfalle. I'm gonna make a couple more of those. Another way to do that, to make farfalle, is doing it on the table. And you put one finger in the middle of the pasta, and then your thumb and, so index finger in the middle, your middle finger and thumb, and you kind of press both, oh, hard to do on a cutting board. And you press both sides up at once, and then take your index finger out and pinch the sides together. And that gives you your farfalle shape. You can also make these with a scalloped edge, which is kind of like ridges, which I like to use my round cutter for as well. Or you can use a pasta cutter like this, a little wheel that has the scalloped edge. Next, we will do garganelli. So garganelli is this little shape here. It's a round shape, and it's got some ridges on it. You can make it without ridges. You can use a pasta board, or you can use a sushi mat to make these. And then you'll also want to use a spoon, something about this size. So do you have a size for that?
That is about a centimeter.
About a centimeter.
It's sort of like making penne, but this particular one is called garganelli, and it starts with a flat pasta as opposed to being extruded through a tube mold. So this is just a little bit of a, you can make it at home with, again, with no special equipment.
So you wrap the pasta on a diagonal around the spoon, wet the edge a little bit, and then press it together like this. Then you're gonna make sure that wet edge isn't wet while you go over the sushi mat or the pasta board. So this pasta board has little ridges on it, and you press it down and just roll the spoon to get those ridges. There you go, and that gives you nice ridges, and those ridges will help to hold the sauce better.
Yeah, you can do that. We'll do it right on we'll get the angle from that other camera.
Sure.
You can do it right on. It's easy if you're not holding the pasta board in your hand, because you won't be able to hold the sushi mat in your hand either, so you're going to lay that right on the mat. So we'll do one more on the table here with the pasta board, and then we'll do another one using the sushi mat. And see, when she has a finger on each side, if you're standing here, they can see the camera better that way.
Yep.
Put the spoon handle out that way, the spoon bowl out that way. There you go.
So you're just pressing it down really firm and then just rolling that And if you've got even weight on both sides, you'll get nice even ridges across the whole piece. And then you just slide that off of your spoon.
And again, you can do these just on the board, or if you have a sushi mat, you can do them on a sushi mat. Easy to do with a rolling pin. Again, no pasta machine required. Give it a little bit of pressure like Ashley just did. And you just want to get those nice little ridges in. It's a simple way of doing something that's going to look attractive. You have a smaller spoon, that's okay. You have a bigger spoon, that's okay too. Okay, these are going to take, like fresh, when we just make them, about 2 to 3 minutes to cook only. We can dry them, just leave them on a tray, dry them overnight, put them in a bag. They'll last 6 months in a bag in your cupboard or in a little container. 6 months. But they'll then take about 7 or 8 minutes to cook. But they have a fair bit of moisture in them right now. So we're going to do 2 things. We're going to just brush this totally with water to get some glue going, and then some adhesion going, and then Ashley's going to fill them up and show you some tortellinis. And then we'll do caramelle out of the pasta that she just recently made. You'll probably be able to do 5 or 6 at a time like we're doing here. When you get really good, you'll be able to do 20 out at a time, but like I said, you want to keep things covered with plastic wrap so they don't dry out too much. So these ones, it's not really math geometry, it's just sort of fun shapes. So we're starting with squares, and then we're going to fold them in half to make triangles. And there's about 6 different ways to do this, so we're just going to show you 1 or 2 different ways to do this. But make sure that the edges are sticky, and if it's been sitting out for a while, you might need to give them another little brushing of water. And the most important thing with this, make sure that it's all sealed. Okay, so you can see, kind of see what's going on there.
Yep. What camera are we in? So this is the tortellini. So you make it into a little triangle and then fold the points over and just pinch them together there.
Yeah, I'll just go back on the screen here so you can see.
Oh, this camera.
Okay, so we're just going to take a look. Folding it over, and make sure, I'm going to make sure that that's pinched together well at the end where we cross them, and make sure that this is sealed all the way around the edge. That creates a little boat. Your sauce will fit in there. We're going to really simple but very, very tasty sauces. Do a couple more. Ashley will get on screen again and do a couple more, and then we'll move on to another one. So one of the other things we can do is, rather than putting the filling off to the side, we can put the filling more into the center and lay another square over top. And press it down really well. And we can use a circle cutter if we have a circle cutter. We can use a knife if we want to do it square. Or if we have a pasta cutting wheel, we can use a pasta cutting wheel that will give us a nice edge. And we can make ravioli. And you want something different, make them into a triangle shape, make them into a rectangle shape, make them into, like I'm doing here, a square, or you can make them into a circle. That just helps to seal them together. And then we get some ravioli, nice and striped. Ashley's really wanting to do her little circle mold. She's going to just do a couple of capelletti, and you have a choice on this mold with a straight edge or a scalloped edge. Scalloped edge is going to look a little bit prettier, so she's going to use that one. So she'll just do 2, and then we're going to do something called caramelle. And caramelle are something that is mimicking the look of one of those hard wrapped candies. So we're going to do that. And again, they can all use the same filling. If you are vegetarian, you don't have to make the cheese. You can use something like a squash filling, any sort of a vegetable puree filling as well.
Are you using the
Yeah,
rest of
this
this
is going to
for
be used for the
caramel?
caramel.
Do you want the cutting board? I'll work.
You go ahead. We're going to do them all.
So the cappelletti is basically the same as the tortellini, but it is cut as a circle, not as a square. So that's why I like it, because I don't have to pull out my ruler. So you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to brush the edges, and then you're going to fold it in half so it makes a half moon shape, which is actually a pasta shape itself, and it is called mezzaluna.
Yes. Mezzaluna is a little knife that you would use to chop back and forth the herbs. Or your spinach if you're making spinach pasta. So we're going to do these two, one with square, one with ruffled edges, and then we're going to make some sauce.
This is the mezzaluna shape. And then you just fold the edges over, and it makes a little cap.
The last one we're going to do takes a rectangle, and you can see my rectangular shape here. And I'm just going to put a small amount of filling in the middle. And make these into caramelli, where I'm going to fold them over, pinch them down, and just pinch in the end and put a little dimple in it. And we've got a little candy looking. So one with a crinkled edge, one with a straight edge. We make them very, very similar just by pinching the ends, just like making the farfalle. And it helps sometimes to hold sauce, put a little dimple in them. So here we have a variety of shapes. So we have our farfalle, garganelle, tortellini, cappelletti, caramelli, and ravioli. All the same pasta essentially, but you can do quite a variety and make things a lot of fun. Okay, we probably do about 18 different shapes of pasta when we're in culinary management, but just wanted to give you a glimpse of what we're doing. Ashley's going to cook these up relatively quickly, but we're just going to show you the sauces in a minute. But if we take our pasta sheet like that, and then we take a small amount of our green pasta
Right here.
and run it through our spaghetti cutter. You can put little random pieces of green on, and then just press this in with a rolling pin. We can do long ones, we can do little ones, we can have them all done and do the same sort of idea with little stripes. Punch out a little circle, and then we can fill it in, or a rectangle or a square. And then just have something, again, we know this is never going to fall apart because the bottom is sealed with a solid piece, and because this was just rolled, we don't even need water on it if we're going to go that quickly. We can just pinch that, piece it together. Making them larger, you have to make less, and it's called tortellini, not tortellini. Tortellini is small, tortelli is the main size, and tortelloni is large. So we have just another different shape there. But we're going to get into making sauce next and show you a couple of really simple sauces. So we're going to get this cranked up. Ashley's going to cook some pasta. We have two very simple sauces that taste delicious. First one takes almost no time at all. going to need peppermill, and we've got a few things. Again, we're using garlic. I went out to our herb garden. Our sage is looking delicious, so I grabbed some sage. We're going to do a sage oil and chive flour pasta with some garlic. So we'll heat up our pan, put in a little bit of olive oil, and then put in some sliced garlic. This takes very little time. When they start to bubble, this sauce is almost done. The only other liquid that we might have in here is just the smallest amount of pasta water. So it's gonna, a little bit's gonna stick. This is going to be for the tortellinis. And this is a sauce that we can get this cooking and then stop it for a little while. And then return it to the heat and add our pastas back in. So you can see it's kind of bubbling. I don't know if this camera is any closer or better. So it's kind of bubbling, and as soon as that bubbles, we're going to put in our sage. You'll hear a little sizzle. Take it off the heat. It's ready now for the pasta. Put in a little pepper, maybe a little salt, and it's done. The next sauce takes a little bit longer. But not much longer. So this next sauce has some great local ingredients. Our food and farming students don't have their tomatoes in the ground yet. We have to wait till after May, but these are just not far from here. Product of Ontario and Kingsville. So this is a mixture of different colors of cherry tomatoes, and we're going to use them. All I've done with them is slice them up. I'm going to start this exactly the same way into a warm pan. I'm going to put some olive oil, put my garlic in. Again, I'm going to wait for that to kind of bubble. I don't want it to burn. And then I'm just going to add tomatoes and some basil. And that's all we need to do. It's going to cook very, very quickly, and then we're going to put our pasta into this, and Ashley's going to plate them. So if you like, again, you like chilies, put some chilies in. If you like different herb, like tarragon or something like that, you can put that in as well. But as this is starting to bubble, I can then add my tomatoes. They're going to sizzle. Cook them for a little bit. Add some salt, a little bit of salt, make those tomatoes taste delicious. Add some black pepper, because it's wonderful. And cook that a little bit. We don't want to overcook these tomatoes. Still want to see pieces of those tomatoes because they're so beautiful and tasty. Ashley's going to bring me the cheese. So she's almost done with those. At the very end, we put in our basil. I'll trade you. This is medium to medium high temperature. And we just want that to break down. Now when you cut these tomatoes, they're going to start to leak out a little bit of liquid. Keep all that liquid with it because that's going to help to create the sauce. So this is medium to medium high. This one that just had the garlic and the sage is a medium to medium low. I just need these tomatoes to break down just a little bit. So they should be done. Garganelli is done too?
Yep.
That's the tortellini?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to put these ones in. And you can see the beautiful deep red color we have from those beets. And all we want to do is get this back on the pan, toss them around, get them covered with that sauce, and then send it to our wonderful Ashley for plating. And these ones we have Garganelli can go in there. And all I'm going to do with that is just add a small amount of the pasta water. pasta water has some of that starch in, and that's going to just sizzle up and just make a bit more of a sauce. Give us something of substance in there that's going to be delicious. So these were like 2-minute sauces, each of them, and they're so tasty. So it smells so amazing in here. I wish you could be here to taste this. Pass these on a plate. We're going to finish. So we made a cheese here at Center for Food. The cheese that we make, it's sort of like a Parmesan. It's a nice hard cheese, and we call it Champlain. We live on Champlain Drive. It's local milk from the local dairy.
Sargent Dairy.
Sargent Family Dairy in Enniskillen, and we grind wash this cheese. Ashley spent 7 weeks, twice a week, washing the cheese to make sure that it gets nice and dry, and we can just finish this off with just shaving. You can do the same with Parmesan. Shave it with your vegetable peeler just to have that. A couple of leaves of basil are in the container. We could do the same on this one. Nice big pieces. And we've got 2 beautiful, easy pasta dishes that we'll show you on the screen in just a second. We do have some time for questions if anyone has questions, but I do want to show you these 2 dishes. So we are, this one? No?
Oh, I lied.
We have like 3 different cameras, folks, so bear with me. I can cook pasta and make cheese, but sometimes finding out which camera it is a challenge for me. So we just have lots of color in here, tons of flavor. The cheese is just starting to melt right in. And then our other one with the tortellinis. What's going on? Okay. We've got some basil leaves. We're helping that one along as well. I hope you enjoyed our demo. I hope you learned something about pasta, and I hope that you're going to cook for your family this weekend. And I really look forward to seeing you at Durham College. Come to an open house, come to a program info night, and we have our info night on Wednesday next week. That's the 14th of May from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Whitby campus. Come to the main building. One of the chefs will be there. We'll bring you over to Center for Food, show you around the program. Show you around the building where you'll be studying. You'll be having a great opportunity, even if you're like in grade 10, 11, and watching this, and then maybe you want to come and learn about OYAP, the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. It's a jump ahead into our culinary management and into apprenticeship, so you might want to learn about that. Always happy to talk to you. Ajax High School, Clarington High School, Holy Trinity, St. John Paul II Catholic School. Thank you for attending. The people that have applied to culinary management, thank you also for attending. You can reach out, and Daniela or myself are happy to answer questions. But if we have anything else, we just have a couple minutes left, and we'll open it up to questions coming in, and we'll probably play a little video of some of the things that are going on, or take a tour of one of our labs. So let's take a look at the lab space. So we have a chance just to show you a 360 of our baking lab, and I'll just walk through that with you. So this is our baking lab. We have this beautiful big glass wall that you can see the living wall in behind. The orange wall is coming along, and that's going to be leading into a bank of stoves. There'll be no more than 24 students in a kitchen at a time, and 2 people to a stove, 2 people to a 6-foot workstation. When you're here, all of your tuition, it includes a beautiful knife and equipment kit with everything that you need to continue through your career with, all the knives, spoons, scales, measuring spoons, tongs, all of those things that you're going to need. You'll be learning a variety of different cooking techniques, international cuisine, and management topics as well. Just reading the question. Pasta making is in 2nd year of culinary management. So when you, as you're in the program, the longer you're in the program, the more time you spend in the kitchen. There are other things, because it's a diploma program. There's other courses that you do need to take. So computers, communications have to be, we have to teach you how to do those. So we get those kind of out of the way in a way in the first semester. And as you progress through the program, you go from about 30% of your time in the lab to about 70% per week of your time in the kitchen. And one of the coolest things that our students find, and we have the editor right here that's been my assistant all day, is the capstone project is a course in the final semester where you take all the knowledge you've learned, food and beverage pairing, nutrition, sanitation, menu costing, and all different types of cuisine, and you work with a partner and you create a series of recipes that end up getting published in your own cookbook. So it's a pretty amazing project. It's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of work, but it actually gives you more insight into being a culinary manager in training, so to speak. So you should have a lot of fun. There's meat cutting, there's vegetarian cuisine, there's cheese making, there's pasta making, learning cuisines around the world, and learning how to cook for not just a smaller commercial restaurant, but into larger quantity food in our retail and quantity food course. So there's a lot of different courses. They are all available. You can see our whole course listing on the Durham College website when you go to programs, culinary management, or culinary skills, and it'll give you the listing of all of the courses. And just so you know, culinary skills is the first year of the culinary management program. So if you apply to culinary skills and you decide, hey, I love this and I want to keep going, you can do an easy transfer here right into culinary management. When you're in culinary skills in your second semester, you'll spend time in Bistro 67. It's our on-campus award-winning restaurant with a great view out of our fields, over our fields, and recently certified 3-star certification for LEAF for environmental sustainability practices, as is our entire program, so we're pretty excited about that. You'll get other certifications such as Basics FST, food safety training, and Smart Serve, responsible alcohol service training, and a world digital badge for culinary sustainability practices called Feed the Planet. So there's a lot of other things that you'll be learning, but it is a lot of fun. Ashley, final words before we see if we had any questions?
Final words, man. It's really just a super cool program to be in. Starting in first semester, all the way up till fourth semester doing my capstone project. It was so much fun. I worked with so many talented chefs. And there's a lot of just opportunity around campus for jobs and for extracurriculars, and I think it's a really lovely campus to be on. Something that I personally love about Durham College is our Field to Fork program. So how we actually, as culinary students, got to go out into the field and pick things and have a tour and see what we're growing on campus, and then see it come into the lab and process it, and then knowing that our compost also goes out back to the farm and goes to be made into compost to go back onto the fields. So it's really cool to me seeing that sustainable aspect of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun that we have, and it's kind of cool when you come in, you cut up in second year, you're cutting up a lamb, but then it's only part of the lab. Then you go out, like Ashley said, you go out to the field, you pick a bunch of vegetables, you come back in, you cook them, and just cook them and serve them with the lamb you just cut up. And, so there's a lot of neat opportunities, a lot of creativity that you can have, and it is a ton of fun. You started in January?
Yes,
So we do have a Jan intake, so Ashley was January till April, then May to August, and then September to December, and then again from January to April, and she's done. So it was kind of a shortened time period, but it got you busy and kept you moving. Mm-hmm. And Ashley represented Durham College with partner MJ at Markham Fair. Had it last year. They had a student chef challenge, and they won gold at the student chef challenge, and they had another classmate team that entered, and they got the silver. So it was a lot of fun to be involved in some extracurricular activities. And students love the September, the third week of September, when we do a harvest dinner celebrating all of the things that the food and farming students harvest that they've grown since for a year. And we help to cook it, and then the hospitality students, as Daniela mentioned earlier, they help to serve that to about 130 guests. So I do look forward to to meeting you at some point in the future. I hope you choose Durham, and we're always here to answer questions. So I think that's pretty much close to my time. So again, Chef Dave Hawey, and thank you to Chef T and Daniela and Ashley and the rest of the crew in here helping make this live stream happen. And happy eating and farewell.